Come on in the room, you guys. Come on in. I'm just going to adjust my camera. All right. I'm getting started. I'm not going to wait for anyone to come in because I am tired and I want to go home. So let's do the introduction. My name is Samarian Colbert. I'm a licensed therapist. I've been in the mental health field for a little over 13 years. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm a published author. And I help people to get free spiritually, emotionally, and mentally free through Jesus Christ. Now, I cannot see my title on the screen anymore, but the title of the message is How to Support a Friend Who Has Suicidal Thoughts. How to support a friend or family member or loved one who has suicidal thoughts. For those who don't know, I am what we call an integrationalist, meaning I take biblical principles and I also take actual mental health strategies that are founded by the American Psychological Association. I integrate those two, and I provide counseling over that. This is a serious topic that we have to address inside the church and outside the church. And so, hello. So I encourage everyone to like and share. For those who are coming in later to get started, I ask everyone leave your questions at the end. You may not have any questions, but at the end I will answer questions, okay? Let's start it off with prayer and then we will get started, okay? We're talking about how to support a friend, a loved one, could be family member, could be a stranger who experiences suicidal thoughts, all right? Gracious God, I just thank you for today. I thank you for the people that will come, will hear the playback. I thank you that your word is secure. I thank you that you provide answers even to this situation that is tough, that people are experiencing. You provide the answer found in your word. You provide it through licensed counselors and people that you have anointed to be called to do this type of work. And so I thank you, Holy Spirit, that you're going to speak today, and I just pray that someone's life will be changed as a result, and that we get more knowledge and understanding. All right, so for those who don't know, I am like I said, I'm a licensed therapist. I've been in the mental health field for a long time, and for those, my other fellow clinicians who will come in, who will watch this on the replay, y'all know that being or dealing with people who experience suicidal thoughts is something that a lot of people experience. It is not for us because, again, for me being in the field so long, I feel like I do know how to work with people who have suicidal thoughts. I've helped walk people through that. And it is a very serious thing. And so one of the reasons why I felt the Lord really pricked me to talk about this is because we're seeing more lay people, we're seeing more ministers, we're seeing more people who are in church who, one, struggle with suicidal thoughts, and two, we are seeing, unfortunately, pastors and leaders who are committing suicide. And I do have to say this is no judgment. Again, this is what I do for a living. Suicide is never the answer. It's never the answer. And God does provide a way. Okay, and so let's get started. So what I'm going to do, I'm trying not to give you too much clinical information, but I'm going to give you some information. And then I'm also, because I am an integrationalist and I understand biblical strategies, I want to talk to you about spiritual warfare, because let's be very clear, mental health and depression, which is where suicidal thoughts come from. Yes, it is a mental health condition. Yes, it can be a chemical imbalance. Let's be very clear about this. I didn't say it was a demon, but it is also an issue of spiritual warfare. Okay, so hopefully you guys can hear me because there is an echo. I had to change where I actually do the live at because I can have issues. So hopefully we won't have any issues today. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is signs of depression in someone. Now, this is really important because what happens is when you're dealing with someone who experiences suicidal thoughts, most of the time, they're not going to tell you, I have suicidal thoughts. Particularly not if you're in church, I dare say, you probably will never hear anybody, definitely not a pastor, but definitely not a lay person, some member. You will not hear them talk about how they had suicidal thoughts. They talk about everything else they've been through, struggles, testimonies, but no one will actually admit that they have suicidal thoughts. But there are signs and symptoms that are indicating of that. If you guys cannot hear me, just say I can't hear you, and I'll try to fix it. But I think we're good. Okay, so let's start off with signs and symptoms of depression. Most people may know these, but we'll go over them again. First symptom of depression, again, is a person feels depressed mood that lasts longer than a day. You feel depressed, you feel sad, you feel hopeless, you feel worthless, and it lasts longer than a day. Okay, another symptom is decreased interest or lack of motivation. Like I don't feel like doing it. You may stay in the bed all day long. Okay, doesn't necessarily. Let me just say this: just because someone experiences the depression does not mean they're suicidal. As a therapist, I always have to assess for suicidality, but doesn't necessarily mean because you experience depression that you are suicidal. However, depression, suicidal thoughts tend to come with it. Crying spells, weight loss or weight gain, insomnia, excessive sleeping, what we call psychomotor agitation. That's a very long word, and what that simply means the person tends to be slow in their action. Maybe they have aches and pains, or they just walk real slow. They kind of just dragging along. Okay, fatigue, loss of energy. These are people that can sleep too much or not sleep at all. When a person is really very depressed, oftentimes they can sleep for 8 to 10 hours, almost 14 hours a day, even longer, still get up and just feel like they're tired again. Okay, they're different or in difficulty focusing. There are different dimensions of depression. There are different dimensions of depression. One is mild. You can be mildly depressed, you can be moderately depressed, and then you can be severely depressed. And so this is why I said when someone's experiencing depression doesn't necessarily mean they're suicidal. When a person is mildly depressed, they're getting up, they're going to work, they're doing their life, but they have this underlying feeling of sadness, of loneliness, of worthlessness. Okay, so they're mildly depressed. Moderately depressed, they may still be getting up, going to work, they're still doing their life, but they just don't feel it. They are still dealing with life on life's terms, but they are moderately depressed. And this is where we tend to see more people having the reoccurring thoughts of suicide. And again, because someone has a thought doesn't necessarily mean it's going to turn into an action, but we got to check those thoughts. And then there's severe depression. When the person gets severely depressed, they can't get out of bed. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. They're missing days of work. They may be hearing voices. They may be even seeing things. For my therapist, we call this psychotic symptom. There's some people that become psychotic, or they start hearing things, or they start hearing voices telling them to kill themselves, telling them to hurt themselves. They may have open dreams and visions. They may have nightmares of them actually hurting themselves, and that's really because they are severely depressed. Okay, sometimes the person can be severely depressed and they don't have all of that. Okay, so when I'm doing an evaluation to see who is experiencing or the level of depression, I always have to put what their mental health diagnosis is, and I also put mild, moderate, or severe. Person is severely depressed, that try not to get to clinical stuff. Someone that is severely depressed may have there's a different level of intervention that we may have versus someone who's mildly depressed. Other questions that I may ask them are what have they ever committed suicide in the past? Or I'm sorry, y'all, not have they ever committed suicide in the past. Have they ever attempted suicide in the past is what I mean. Okay, so those are basic symptoms of depression. Now let's get a little deeper. Like I said that just because a person is depressed doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to commit suicide. And just because someone has suicidal thoughts doesn't necessarily mean they're going to commit suicide. But it is a red flag, and it's something you definitely want to be aware of, okay? So let's talk about suicidality, and then I'm going to talk about signs that a person is suicidal. So first area of a person experiencing we call it suicidal ideations. In the mental health field, ideation simply means thoughts. So what happens is when a person is just having low-lying thoughts of suicide, they're not going to say, I want to commit suicide, but they'll start thinking, well, I don't have a purpose. They start thinking, well, what if life would be better if I wasn't here? Or I'm a burden to people. Or I don't want to in my life, I just don't want to feel the pain anymore. But they have reoccurring thoughts, but they're not going to act on them. Okay? Or they say they're not going to act on them. The next is feelings. Feelings when it's like, it's a strong urge to go towards. So it comes from just a random thought that comes, and then you start having thoughts and feelings. I tell my clients all the time, a thought that comes in your head, that comes and goes, is not something that we worry about, okay? Thought comes in, it comes out. We have to have up to 1,000 thoughts a day. We don't tend to worry about thoughts that comes and goes. A random thought, you can have all kind of random thoughts as you go about your day. However, a thought that comes and sticks and stays, that's when we got to be worried. So if a person says, I think I need to end my life. I need to end my, and they keep thinking about it over and over again, because the more you think about it, the more you ruminate on it, the more you become, it almost becomes a reoccurring thought, then we have a problem, okay? And then this is another area I think that we don't ever talk about, is that how depression becomes an issue of spiritual warfare. I'm going to say it again. Depression and suicidal thoughts become an issue of spiritual warfare. Now, most therapists are not going to talk to you about this, and even faith-based people, or if they don't believe in the orientation or the idea that depression can be also a spiritual issue, they're not going to deal with the issue of spiritual warfare. However, it is really important for you to understand, whenever someone has reoccurring thoughts of death, when they're having dreams and visions that they're going to die, if they start getting to the point where they're getting ready to lose control and they don't know what will happen, whether we want to believe or not, that is an issue of spiritual warfare. Okay? That is, when you're hearing voices say, I need to kill myself, I need to kill myself, I'm no good, and those voices are coming outside of yourself, when you're hearing a voice saying, you need to die, you need to kill yourself, no one loves you, all this kind of things, let's be clear. It is an issue of spiritual warfare, okay? I'm not stigmatizing everybody. I'm not saying everyone who has experiencing suicidal thoughts has a demon. I'm not saying that. But I am telling you, we have to contend with this, because the Bible says we fight not against flesh and blood, against principalities, against powers, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Okay? And so we have to have our deliverance ministers come into place, because when it gets to an issue as severe, where we don't know what's going to happen, when you feel like something is taking over your body to the point where you get ready to jump, or you get ready to shoot, or you get ready to hang, or whatever you get ready to do, let's be clear, that is an issue of spiritual warfare. Okay? This is why I tell people I'm in integrations. I take psychological mental health issues, and I understand the psychological aspect of it, but I also understand the spiritual aspect of it. And we need to integrate the two, okay? But that is an issue of spiritual warfare. And this is sometimes why you can have someone who's going through all the right treatment, who has the right counselors, who has the right medication. I'm not against medication. Medication helps. It absolutely helps. But there comes a place where the counseling is not working. Okay, sometimes people don't follow up, they don't do what they're supposed to do, okay? So that's not the issue, but there comes a time that person is coming to counseling as often as the doors are open. They have the medication, and they're on their medication. They may be just doing everything that they're supposed to do, and they still have these thoughts, these feelings, and these voices telling them to kill themselves. We are dealing with spiritual warfare at that point, okay? Everything is not spiritual warfare, but that's what it is. So let's continue to go on. I'm almost done, you guys, so I'm going to give you some basic tools, and then we'll be done, okay? So what are some warning signs that a person is getting ready to commit suicide, okay? The first one is obvious. They start talking about it. They just start talking about it. Anyone who talks about suicide, death, self-harm, or they thought they're getting prepared. When I die, or I just want to say Jesus, or something like that, and they're fairly young, you want to ask some further questions. What do you mean by that? I always have ask open-ended questions. Sometimes you ask someone straight out, are you suicidal? They may say yes or no. They may say yes. They may say no. 9 times out of 10, they're going to say no. However, you ask open-ended questions. Tell me what you mean when you said that you're ready to see Jesus. What does that mean? You understand? Give them room to answer the question. You want to make sure at the end of the day that they are safe. All right? Other things you can do is, other warning signs, they start seeking out, another obvious one, y'all. They start seeking out weapons. Now, this is North Carolina. North Carolina has a different gun policy. It's a little bit more liberal because people do hunting and they just believe in protecting their state and all that kind of stuff. You know, people are a little different. However, when they start seeking out weapons, if they start stockpiling pills, if they're on medication, and you know what I'm saying? So they have access to weapons, okay? They have an unusual preoccupation with death. Now, I'm not talking about maybe a senior citizen and maybe they're in their late whatever age, and they are getting ready to transition. Because if you ever deal with elderly people, they know their time is short. They are planning their afterlife their death for the most part. But I'm talking about somebody that's beyond the norm. They make statements like, well, when I die, or they have a fascination with death. Even like television shows that are focused on death and dying. And what's these shows that keep coming out? I can't think of the name. These shows with people. Anyway, when they start having a preoccupation with death, and not in a good way, where it's a little eerie, it's like, oh, okay, what's going on here? What's going on here? Okay? They have no hope for the future. That is a huge one. I would add to this. If they have no hope for the future and they feel like they have no purpose. People who feel like they have no purpose for living, they have no purpose for, they just feel like they have no purpose. They feel like life is just passing them by. They have no reason to live. They have no purpose, or they feel hopeless, or they feel like things are this way and things will always be this way. So you got to look for trigger words like always, and it's never going to get better. And I've always experienced this, and I'm just waiting on Jesus so I just want to have an end to suffering. But those always, those eternal words, you have to ask further questions. Self-loathing, feeling extremely sorry for themselves. This is another one which is really key. They start getting their affairs in order. So they may be severely depressed, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they get really happy. I'm not talking about you had a spiritual experience. I'm just talking about they get really happy. And out of nowhere, they just start doing things like giving away their prized possessions, or saying, listen, I've always loved you, and I just want you to know whatever happened, that you've always, whatever happened, it's always been me and you, and I will always love you for the rest of my life. And they start giving away things, and they feel like they're setting things in order. The reason why sometimes people get immediately happy, because they start thinking about an end to suffering, and they think that suicide is an end to suffering. And so what they do is they get happy because they feel like they have a resolve, they have a solution to this problem, which is not really a solution. Okay, so they start getting their affairs in order. They start making out a will. They start giving away prized possessions. They start making arrangements with families. Maybe they start visiting everybody and saying goodbye. And I just want y'all to know I always loved y'all. That kind of thing. You got to watch that, okay? Saying goodbye in unusual times, okay? Unusual, unexpected visits. Saying, hey, just want to let you know I'm checking. I just want to let you know I love you, that kind of thing. Watch the text messages. I always loved you. Or, hey, stuff like that. You got to, it just feels eerie, okay? Withdrawing from others. That's a sign of depression in general. They withdraw from others, okay? They just start isolating, and you don't hear from them, and they start cutting people off. I'm gonna give you some things that you can do in the intro, but if you're also worried about somebody, you can also, you don't necessarily have to, if you want to call the police, okay, really worried, but you can also do, they're not answering their phone, they're not answering text message, you really are worried about them, things of that nature. You can always do what we call a wellness check. You do a non-emergency wellness check. That means you call the police and say, this is not an emergency, but I'm really worried about my friend, and she's expressed some suicidal thoughts. Can you guys do a wellness check on her? Okay, the police will show up at the door. Now, your friend will probably be really offended by that. However, at the end of the day, it's better for them to be offended than you to be attending their funeral. Okay. Self-destructive behavior for those increasing alcohol use, unsafe driving, having a death wish, they're cutting themselves. I see that a lot with teenagers, things of that nature. And then a sudden sense of calm. I said it before, a sudden sense of calm. After being extremely depressed, they just become calm. And again, why do they become calm? They become calm because they have a resolution that's not really a resolution. Okay? Again, suicide is never the answer. Risk factors for suicide could be one, you always want to, you can ask, like, have they previously attempted suicide? And if they have, how long has it been? Someone if they're in their 50s, when they attempted suicide, 20 years ago, then, that's may not necessarily be a huge warning sign versus, 2 weeks ago I tried to commit suicide, that kind of thing. Most of the time, people who will attempt to commit suicide or who will be successful at suicide, they have attempted it multiple times unsuccessfully. Okay, because some people tried the first time and they're successful at it. We don't want a person to be successful at suicide. However, if they have a track record of being suicidal, then you know that's something that you need to deal with. Okay, family history, history of childhood abuse, things of that nature are all risk factors. Recent loss within the family, they recently lost someone that's very significant to them, they may struggle with suicidal thoughts. As a matter of fact, when you look at I think it's the grief stages of change, one of the thoughts would be, one of the stages is they have suicidal thoughts, so they want to go be with the person that they love. And of course, we know again that is not the answer. So what should you do? What should you do? Again, if you have an imminent issue, if you imminently think that the person is going to commit suicide, then you should take them to a local hospital. Most places in the state of North Carolina have what we call a crisis walk-in center. And a lot of states also, in your different states, Virginia, Maryland, they do have what we call a crisis walk-in center. Now, crisis walk-in center works almost the same as going to the emergency room at a hospital. However, the crisis centers are for mental health or behavioral health issues. Okay, so it's a crisis center. So you look at your local, I Google crisis walk-in centers in your local state. You can also call 211, I believe it is, and you can call that number and they will give you resources as well. Okay? What I don't want people to do, and please don't do this to me, okay, is just call a therapist and leave a message on their voicemail saying, hey, my cousin or my friend is suicidal, what should I do? Like, I literally had someone call me, this is a true story, I had someone call me on my office phone. My office, we close at 9 o'clock, okay, in the evening. So I had someone call me, leave a message on my voicemail on my office phone, 11 o'clock at night. Again, my office is closed. I don't get the call till the next day. So the person didn't say they were suicidal, okay? So that's just there. But it was like, hey, my daughter needs counseling. Somebody give me a call right away. Click. That's it. I don't know the daughter's name. I don't know addresses. I don't have contact numbers. It's my daughter needs help. But that's you leaving that number on a private. You see what I'm saying? So if you are really concerned about someone's safety, you got to get them someplace right away. If you feel like they're suicidal right then and there, you can call a mobile crisis center. You can call a 24-hour crisis line. You can call a national suicide prevention line that is open 24 hours of the day. Okay, so you do want to get them help, but you want to make sure you get them help right away. When you go to a hospital or a crisis center, they cannot discharge you without a discharge plan, okay? So that means they will tell you where to go, who to go, and where to go before you leave the hospital. Now, I know that it sounds extreme because most people don't want to go to a hospital. But if you can go to a hospital or urgent care for you broke your arm, whatever it is, you broke your arm, something, you know what I'm saying? For a physical issue, if it's an emergency, you go to the emergency room, right? A lot of people don't think to go to the emergency room, go to the emergency for a mental health issue, but if it's an emergency and it's a mental health issue, guess what? You can still go to get urgent care from that way. But do not call, and not myself or any other private practitioner. You know, someone's a therapist. Don't DM them or leave a voice message, because if their office is closed and they don't even get the message to the next day, we are concerned about your safety. Okay, at the end of the day, and just leave them a voice message and say, hey, call me back because such, and you're concerned about that person's safety is not going to get you what you need. Okay, that's for follow-up care. It's not for urgent care. All right. Most organizations, most behavioral health organizations do have a 24-hour crisis line. Okay, some of your big box organizations have a 24-hour crisis line. The number to the National Suicide Prevention Line, which is national, is 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. That's the national one. But again, Google what area you work, what area you live in. There's a local crisis line for the specific area that you live in any state. Okay, I just can't sit here and give it to you because I don't know what state you are in. There are people watching from different states. Also, if a person's already connected with a mental health provider that is more of a big box agency, guess what? They also have their own 24-hour crisis line that you can call. Okay, again, in mobile crisis. In North Carolina, we have mobile crisis, and all these numbers can be found by just Google mental health immediate care or something like that. Okay, most managed care organizations, the managed care organizations in the state of North Carolina are organizations that like govern all mental health agencies. Okay, you can call them. They have a 1-800 number. You can call 24 hours of the day, and they will get you where you need to go. Okay, so but let's say the person is struggling with the suicidal thoughts, but they had no plan. You feel like they're safe, but you still want to get them help. You don't just want to leave it up to wait until they're in crisis mode. Okay. So I gave you worst case scenario first. Other thing is that you support them by going to counseling. And don't just say, I really think you should go to counseling. I really think you should do that. Find them a counselor. You can go to Psychology Today, type in your local zip code, and they will show you a list of counselors that are in your area. You can support them by saying, listen, you really need to go see a counselor. Sometimes when you are just a regular lay person, it may be very difficult for you to deal with someone who has recurring suicidal thoughts. You want to be a support to them, but you also recognize this is beyond my capacity to be able to deal with because I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, whatever it is you find yourself. And it can be very difficult, it can be very anxiety provoking, you could keep you up sleeping at night, it can be very stressful for you because you are dealing with someone who has suicidal thoughts and you're worried about this person, whether they're going to be safe or not. So you can still support them by saying, listen, this is what you need to do. Help them to find a place in your particular area. Okay? Again, Psychology Today is a good resource. And just Google. Just Google mental health counselors in my particular area. And guess what? A whole list of people come up. Okay? And keep calling people and get the earliest appointment available. If they're available, if you meet with somebody and they don't have an appointment until 4 to 6 weeks away, you may not necessarily want to go to that person. If the person is suicidal and they're willing to wait, maybe that person has a good reputation within the community, then that's okay if you feel like they are safe and they can wait that long. However, you should be able to get an appointment within 24 to 48 hours of calling a counselor or a therapist. Sometimes you may have to wait a week out. That's why we don't want you to we want you to get someplace sooner than later, okay? But support them. Set a plan of action for them. This is my therapist. These are my support people. These are people I call, things of that nature. But you can support them. You can also support them by actually going with them to the counseling session. Don't just say, hey, here's the number. Call them. Because sometimes people, particularly in my Christian base, my Christians, there's a lot of stigma related to mental health and mental health counseling. So it takes them a lot longer to get into counseling than maybe the average person. The average person may be like, ooh, let me just call this counselor. And I'm gonna get, we're gonna start talking. But because there's so much stigma, there's so much shame, a lot of people are still honestly are not aware that the fact that we do have Christian-based licensed mental health counselors, things of that nature. They're just still very ashamed, and sometimes they have this stereotype. Maybe they were grown up. Maybe they grew up thinking, well, you don't have to go to counseling, or you just pray about it, and that's it. And so sometimes people feel like they're breaking the rule, or they're not Christian enough when they call to see a counselor, and that's not the case. Okay, so support them. Say, listen, sis, this is a counselor. Let's go together. At least I'll sit in the lobby. Now, some therapists, for me, if you have a support person and you feel comfortable with that person actually bringing that person into session with you, as long as you let me know in advance, and as long as we sign consent for release of information, we can do that, even if it's your first time, because I want you to feel safe and supported. Okay, so either you say, listen, let's go together. The appointment was at this amount of time. Like, I'm gonna just go there with you just because I want to support you. Okay, you sit in the lobby while that person comes back and they talk to the counselor. Okay, so support them. Don't just hand in the number. Don't just hand them a list of people from the Psychology Today website. Other places you can go, because a lot of therapists do accept insurances. You can call the back of your insurance card is a 1-800 number. You can call that number as well. They also have a crisis. Most insurance companies has a crisis department. I don't know how it all works, but they have a crisis department. They do have a crisis department for their behavioral health insurances. And so what the crisis department does is they have to get you an appointment with a therapist within 3 to 5 business days. Okay, some insurance, just depending on who you deal with, they can get you an appointment within 24 to 48 hours. So what you do is you call in, maybe it's Blue Cross Blue Shield, I'm just using them as an example, and you say it is a crisis, I'm not suicidal, but I need to see someone right away. What they do is they pull up a list of therapists who are in network with them, and they start calling down lists. They start saying, hey, whoever, therapist John Doe, I need to have a client I need to send to you. Would you be able to see them within 48 hours? And I may be on that list as well, okay? So, again, that works too. If you do not have insurance in the state of North Carolina, you can still go to the crisis center. The state of North Carolina will allot to you a certain amount of sessions that you will not have to pay out of pocket. Okay, they will always ask you about your ability to pay, and maybe even do a sliding scale fee. But if you can't pay anything, there's a state funding that will help you to get into the counseling office without you having to pay anything out of pocket. They don't advertise that because the funds and the money is very limited. Okay, now I don't have that grant, I don't have that funding, but like places like Monarch, places like Trinity Behavioral Health Services, and there's so many other ones listed. I want to say Youth Haven, and the type of funding is called IPRS funding. Okay, I don't have that grant, but again, so don't let money be a reason it stops you from seeking counseling. Also, if you go to one of those crisis centers, they're not going to turn you away if you don't have insurance. Okay, it's like going to an emergency room. They can't turn you away if it's an emergency. If you go to the emergency room, same way it is with mental health. If you have a mental health emergency, they're not going to turn you away because you don't have insurance. Okay, now they may not deal with you for ongoing treatment. Okay, they may not deal with you for ongoing treatment. They will help you to find other resources. As a therapist, we can't just let somebody go off the door. We always have to find you someplace to go that's going to give you the clinical care that you need. Okay? So set a plan of action, support them in attending that session. Also, again, support them in attending a spirit-led church. I said there's a part of depression, that's anxiety. There's a part of depression and suicidal thoughts that's really rooted in spiritual warfare. And so the more you can give them spiritual tools to combat how they feel, not just going to any church, but going to a church that's going to speak directly to them, it's not going to necessarily take away everything they feel all the way, immediately, but it's going to help to instill hope in them, okay? Sometimes hearing the word of God, hearing the word of God, hearing that God loves you, He has a purpose for you, and having a support system in the form of a church, a spirit-led church, is really going to help you tremendously. Okay, and I remember even I talk about my church a lot, how much I love my church, but I remember even my pastor talking about mental health issues and praying for people who are suicidal behind the pulpit. Okay, so that's going to reinforce how that person, it's going to reinforce and help to bring that person out. It's not the only thing. You still got to go to counseling. Sometimes you still got to take medication. But go to a spirit-led church where they believe in emotional and mental healing as well, okay? So support them. Check in on them. I don't care how deep they are. I don't care if it sounds fine. And I would never do such a thing. If you are worried about them and you are concerned about them, check in on them. Now, I did mention that you can do a wellness check. You can do a non-emergency wellness check for people. They probably will be offended by that, but guess what? It's better for them to be offended than to be attending their funeral. Okay? As someone I met with today, her friend did the exact same thing. Called the non-emergency line, had the police show up at her door, but it was a safety issue. She was offended, but again, her friend was not attending her funeral. Okay? So again, remember that depression is real. It is real. For those who just came in, I said it's an issue of not only just mental health, not just a chemical imbalance, not just an issue of stress, but it's also an issue of spiritual warfare. And you need to begin to speak into that person's life and speak into their future and begin to call things that are not as though they were. You are going to be a great man or woman of God. I break every spirit of depression off. I break that spirit of death off. And I come against everything that's not of God. In the name of Jesus, I curse the spirit of the enemy that's trying to come against your purpose and trying to come against your destiny. I break that in the name of Jesus. I say, devil, you have no authority in this person's life. Satan, I come against your